Welcome to my Hebrew channel, Milbraika. Today I'm looking at an interesting individual. His name is Hiel. He really didn't live up to his name. Hiel is God, life of God, okay? The life of God. God gives life, so Hiel. And he was an individual from Bethel, and he went down to Jericho to rebuild the place against very much the instructions of Joshua, against instructions of God given to Joshua. And some bad things are happening in Jericho, and later on, at the time of Ahab, when paganism was returning full steam to Israel, Hiel picked up on it and said, well, let's bring that back to Jericho. So, yeah, a very, very wrenching story because of who was killed. The name is ironic because rather than being a god of life or a man of life here, he dedicated his sons to death. And yeah. It's a tragic story. So, Joshua 6, verse 26. This is Joshua, Yehoshua. Joshua made an oath. In other words, the same thing as Beersheba. Okay, making the well of the oath. Sheva is based also on 7, and you have to have sacrificed 7 animals to make an oath. So, Sheva is a kind of obvious way to approach this. Making an oath, making a pact, making a covenant, and Yeshua. And then Joshua made an oath, Beit, and then at that time, Hahi, in the time, that time. So that's a demonstrative here again. So Bahihi. Lemor saying, okay, Arur, cursed. This is the stronger. You have Galil. You have a Galil. You have a Gimel Lamed Lamed as a root for being cursed, but this one's much more powerful. In other words, cursed to destruction, aror, torn. The resh to me is onomatopoeia. It sounds like this, ripped to pieces. Okay, arur, Aish, the man. Nice article on the front of this. Ish, the man. Lifnei, before the face of Jehovah. This is put in as a review, but I've got an older text here to show you something interesting on this one. Yehovah, Asher, Yakom, who has lifted up or will lift up, he will lift up. This prefix third person pronoun here, or first person here of this verb. He will lift up, or he will lift up. Who would lift up? Ubana, and to build. Okay, so these are and who would build. Abana, bet nun. That's the verb that's behind ben, son. Ben is a son that has to lift up or build a family, and this is bana here. So a well-known root, of course. The hay can suffer a hook quite easily. So et ha'ir, and this city, direct object marker here, building the city. Azot, this one. Et Jericho, the Jericho. Normal way of writing Jericho. Riach is moon, and then his moon. In other words, when we're in this city, the city apparently was dedicated worship of the moon. Okay, so his moon. Direct object marker here, of course. On or with, or bichoro, with his firstborn. Okay, firstborn. Bechor is the firstborn. The one who had the rights to all of the inheritance, and so often struggles on the fact that the firstborn had more rights than others and would receive the inheritance or the blessing. See that struggle with Jacob and his brother. So Bekoro, with his firstborn, Yisha Yeshed Deina, he will put the foundation. Okay, Shad is a foundation as a noun. Here it's a verb. Okay, and then he. The yashad is the root of the verb, and then you have the yod here establishing the person. He will. Okay? Same thing as we see over here. Yakum and yashadena. Okay? He will then put the foundation of her, feminine prefix, the pronoun here, based on the fact that ha'ir is feminine. Okay? O vishiro, and in his youngest. Okay. Same suffix pronoun here as you have bekoro and shero, of him. Okay, of him. Yeshiv, he will set up. It's related to shev, but this is Sadik, of course. Yashiv. Okay, he will set up. Dalatecha, he will set up her doors on the basis of the firstborn and the youngest. Okay. So we have an ancient text here. I call this the Cairo text because, and just a few little things I wanted to point out using this. It's it's very readable text. Yeshua, Yeshua, and Jehovah Joshua swore, made an oath. Bet Hahi, in that time, they were saying, Arur Haish, curses the man, Lifne, before Jehovah. Notice here that this dot on the top, in modern translations of modern printings, you put it in as a Rebbe, it's the same size as any holum that you'll find out here. So it's modern text put in as a Rebbe. No, we'll take it as a holum. Jehovah, okay, Jehovah. Asher Yakum, who will raise up and build this city, and then Jericho. This is the normal spelling of Jericho with the suffix vav here, holum there. And Koro, in his firstborn, Yeshadecha, he will put the foundation. And in his youngest, he will set the doors. And the result here, coming all the way into Ahab, now this is where Hiel is mentioned, okay? The doors are mentioned, the city is mentioned, the firstborn and the second, the youngest, are all of those words. There's numerous words that we see all the way coming in from Joshua 7. See them here again. But now, I get some more details. Got the names of the boys, got where the man came from who did this, the name of that man, Hiel. And as I said, it's very ironic because Hiel means life. Okay, here we go. Life of God. Okay? And this man did not have life of God. Well, he had life from God, but his activities resulted in death, or brought on death. And in fact, he brought on the deaths of his children here. Bihyameh, and in the days of Bana, his days, Bana. This incidentally, the antecedent proud here is Ahab. So Bihyameh, Yamav, Bana, he built Hiel. Okay, Hiel built Beit Ha Eleh. This is from the house of his God. Okay, so it's an interesting spelling for Bethel. Okay, normal spelling would be just Beit El. Okay, Bet Yod Tau and then Aleph Lamed. Okay, but we have an extra article in here, have an extra suffix in here of his God. Okay, so the extras are there just to kind of point out that this guy's somewhat special. He's carrying whatever Bethelites carry. Okay, he's got the sins of Bethel on him, carrying him with him as he goes down to Jericho. It's Jericho, and then he built this direct object marker, receiving the action of being built, and then we have a suffix here, and it's same holum as the holum vav, but this time it's wrong with the holum hey. The hey here, why is it there? It can be a suffix pronoun regarding the city, or also directional hey. Hey, this sin of this man is coming from Bethel, coming this way, and there's a kind of a special spelling of Jericho here, Jericho. And it's kind of like, oh, he's setting this thing aside for himself. So Jericho. Be'avir, and on the Be'avir, and my father's raised up or lifted up, almost very identical, very close to Abraham, but we do have an extra Hirik Yod in the middle of it. So Be'aviram, Bekor, his firstborn, Yesh Shada, he put the foundations of her, and feminine suffix pronoun here because of the city, which is feminine. Of course, Jericho is also feminine here. Segub, and with his Segub. Segub is the name of the other son right here, Segub. And we have a Ktiv Kare here, and it's a little harder to catch. Now, modern printings will put this one as a Yod, and that's maybe why they wanted to put in the Kare. But our text that we check out the one that's 1,000 years old, and we're looking at a good old vav in the middle here. So, but this one it's really reinforcing the spelling of this name here. So, wouldn't want a yod here to confuse people. Okay, Uba Juguv, Zeiro, his youngest, Hisiv, he sets up, caused to set up a Hefel right here. Dalatav, her gates, feminine again because the city is feminine. Kedabar, according to the word of Jehovah, Asher, which Diber spoke by the hand, by Yad, Yeshua ben Nun. And I have an ancient version of it. It's a little bit hard to read, but we can read it. We've been looking at the printed version, which helps us out a lot here. But this is Yamim. This is in the days of Bana, and then he built Hiel. Okay, Hiel. This is Hiel. This is the name of the man who was doing this building. Bana. He built, and he's from Beit Hael. He's from Bethel. Okay, he's from Bethel. Okay, and the article here, as I said previously, and then his God. Okay, so they're kind of an exact spelling of Bethel, but it's still he is from Bethel, and he built this direct object marker here et, and then Jericho, and then Jericho has a holem hey at the end here, which is a little bit different. And it should have been holem vav, but it since says a directional hey right here, but sort of making Jericho his Jericho. How come he can show up and claim it to be his Jericho? Well, he's sacrificing his sons to do it. Okay, this is one case where most certainly a literal reading of the passage, which if you have a literal reading, you go, how can this be? How does this work? Most translations, King James had it pretty close, and later on the people looked at that and said, how can that be? Well, okay, he built the city, and then why? When he built the city, of course, Jehovah, smote the first one, and then when he finished the gates, he smote the second one. But it's a little bit more detailed. Here, literal actually has a little bit more impact, has a lot more impact, in fact. This man took his sons. He took his firstborn, and when he was putting in the foundation of Jericho, it's all adobe brick, it's all mud brick, and found a spot among the bricks and said, okay, this probably was a baby when he did this. We're going to sacrifice the child, put him right in there among the bricks. In other words, a literal reading of this thing, exactly what it says in the Hebrew, is quite horrifying. Just to think, yeah, there's a child sacrificed and put among the bricks, and we can say this now because in archaeology, these kind of tombs have been found. Sometimes it's hard to tell whether the child died naturally or whether the child was placed there as a sacrifice. But yeah, very key spots. All of a sudden you see a burial, and oh, why did that happen? And it's apparent here that he took his sons, sacrificed them, placed them in the tombs, one under the foundation of the walls and the other one under the foundation of the doors when the doors were finished. So very, very, and the fact that he's gone from the oldest to the youngest, hopefully a few other children in between there, but no, the first and the last sacrificed in this way to establish the city. It was really a very brutal way to tell all the inhabitants of the place. The place probably had some people living in it already, even without walls, but you're just saying, hey, this place is mine, and I'm willing to give up my children to get it. Kind of a teaching for us. Please, please, please don't work so hard, and don't avoid your children. Spend time with them. Don't sacrifice your children just because you're involved in building something important. Yeah, make sure your children live through your work experiences, and make sure your children aren't sacrificed when you're trying to build something in this world. So take it to heart. Sometimes a little reading, it can be very abrupt and very shocking, but here, taking it in a literal sense is something that really teaches us a great lesson. Don't sacrifice your children for the work you are doing. So, and go forward and be faithful to Jehovah, first of all. God bless, and God give you wisdom as you decide on doing these kind of things. So God bless until the next time.